I just bought this Lamborghini Urus for my girlfriend.
Thanks.
And it was cheap, obviously. Oh, the body's come on. But there's one reason why this car is sat here for over a year now. Buying any crash damaged car is a huge risk.
That's bad.
I should know, we've done plenty before. But buying one which was worth over £200,000 just adds to it. Oh my goodness. But when I saw this Urus come up at auction, I thought it'd be my only opportunity to grab one of these at a fraction of the price. So, I went for it. Nothing wrong with that. Oh my god. The thing is, the footage that you see in here was filmed nearly a year ago. You guys might have been seeing it in the background of a lot of the videos. Here it is here, 10 months ago. Here's Hannah's new car. And this is the person I bought it for. We rebuilt Hannah's Range Rover a long time ago now, and it's been great. So much that it's done 175,000 miles.
I'm kind of sad to see the Range Rover go. Such an attachment to this car, I don't think you realise. I don't think I'm going to get rid of it.
You like your car, Kevin? Oh, yeah. I think she likes it. Oh, you like it? But who wouldn't like a Urus? Yeah, that's well nice.
How quick can you fix it?
But that was the question I couldn't answer. And that brings us to today, July the 23rd, 2024. A long time after I actually bought this car. But today's the day we actually start work on it. I think we should show you around the car first. Although the Urus looks bad at first glance, there's actually a lot of good things on there. A Krapovich! That's extra, I think. 23-inch alloys, carbon ceramic brakes, carbon, Lamborghini stitching, folding seats, not electric though, bit weird.
Oh.
The Lamborghini, oh, this is going to be worth a fortune.
That's cool, I like that.
And it's even got the oil filler there, look.
Ah, that's where you put the oil in.
Thanks for saying that.
Back in my day, you were cool if you had a flat bottom steering wheel.
Yeah, it's quite cool to be fair, as well.
Sunroof.
Do all of them have sunroofs? I think all Uruses do have sunroofs, but overall, the car's amazing. As you would expect for such an expensive SUV. But there might be more bad parts about this car than good.
That's bad.
No, it's good.
When are you taking it for a haircut?
There's a lot of stuff missing. Front left wing, damaged. Front right wing looks like it's actually been cut off. Wheel, slightly curved. Windscreen, damaged. Airbag, deployed. Airbag, deployed. Airbag, deployed. But this isn't the damage that I was worried about. It's this. This chassis leg is in a completely different postcode to where it's supposed to be, and you can see here, look at the, there's the subframe, and it bolts to the chassis leg, and it's gone. It's the chassis leg is not supposed to touch the wheel, and it's touching the wheel. This chassis damage is huge. We don't know how far back the chassis damage has actually gone. And this is like the throttle body for opening and closing to allow air into the engine, and it's down here, it's not doing much down there. And for that reason, we don't even know if this engine is actually any good. It was listed as a non-runner, but the crash could have caused some serious damage to the engine as well.
So why can't I turn it on now?
Well, it's missing half the front.
I know it doesn't have a radiator, but we could turn it on quickly.
Well, one, the pyro fuse may be gone because the airbags have gone.
Get around that.
Yes, but there is one danger thing which I'm a little bit nervous about. Just here is the inlet manifold. And guess what, Matt?
What?
This is our favourite engine in the world. An RS6 engine.
Oh, right, we'll go. Right, let's go. Yeah, see you later. Have fun. See you later, mate.
This engine shares a lot of similarities with the new RS6. And we have experience with the old RS6 engine, and it wasn't the easiest to work on. And with the inlet manifolds being plastic, we're worried that part of it could have broke off and could have even been sucked into the engine. But to repair this, we're going to have the engine out. So really, we should get it running before we take the engine out, because if we take the engine out, fix all the structural stuff, and then put it back in and the engine's done for, we've wasted our time taking it in and out. I think we do need to get it started.
Yay!
With it being Hannah's car, she was the first one to get the tools out on it. Firstly, removing the bonnet. So there's a few things you need to start a car, or a few things you need to run an engine. Number one is power. And the battery on this car is at the back, but we do have a jumper cable here. But it's just a weird power system. Look, you can see 14.8 volts and 50 amps. It's so, I don't know whether this has some kind of like weird battery involved, but when there's electric involved, it's not really our best, it's not our subject really, is it? So out comes the jumper pack, and we was going to put power to those jumper points which were underneath the bonnet. Once we've done this, we should have power to the car and be able to open the rear boot lid. Wow! And now we can check the battery out.
Do you think this is just a leisure battery then?
I think it might be a leisure battery. 48 volts. Why would you need so many volts? Double the amount of volts you normally have. Next thing you need is fuel. Let's see if we've got fuel. We've got fuel. Next thing we need is oil. We also wanted to clean out this air intake as well, because there's a lot of dust in there, and any dust that gets sucked inside the engine is not going to do it any good. And we also can't check the oil unless the car's on, because there's no dipstick. So now we're just going to remove this brace across, just to give us better access to those intake pipes so we can clean it all out. So the air box sits on top, and the air gets sucked through into the turbos. The turbos will be spinning, causing boost, and then they come out down the bottom, down through this middle section, down here, and both go through these pipes here. So when they go back through these pipes here, they'll connect to an intercooler on the side of both sides, which is cooling down the air before it then gets pushed into this, which goes into the engine somehow. So it should be, there should be a loop here, but at the minute it's just going to suck air and blow it straight out of there if we manage to get it started.
So there's no air going to the engine?
The only air goes to the engine is through that. There'll be no boosted air. So I really don't think it's going to work, but if it turns over, it's a good sign.
Yeah, that's about all you're going to get it to do, I think.
There was a few other things we needed to do, like bend this pipe out the way before we could get it started. Mechanic. Is that mechanicked it?
That's one bit we don't need to repair now.
Right, Annie, you going to start it?
When you press that button, nothing's going to happen.
It's going to go and we're going to be looking for a pyro fuse for another hour.
Do you think it'll start, Hannah?
I think it'll start. I think
We've
they
got
don't
faith.
have faith.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got to have faith.
Right, we're ready to go. Is that it? Nothing. Oh, the battery's completely dead. Look, it's still counting down. My dad then thought it'd be a good idea to attach 2 jumper packs to the jumper points underneath the bonnet to give it that extra bit of juice that the car might need to get it started. Okay, you want to go for it? Oh! Oh my God! It
Look at it! Oh, it sounds
sounds like a tractor! It's running!
Has the oil light gone out?
Is there any oil light? The car actually started first crank. It shocked all of us. Sounds like a V8! Sounds like an American V8. Okay, turn it off. It started first time.
You had no faith.
Good news. How did that? That didn't even crank. It just went. Oh, nice.
These don't have pyro fuses then.
No, they don't seem to care about that. Neither did my Gallardo, did it?
No.
That just started. Lamborghini just like, yeah, keep driving.
This car's a tank.
Yeah.
Let's drive it in now.
That's another good news, is we might be able to get it in neutral now then. Okay, start it again and see if it will go into neutral. On the brake.
It is on the brake.
Now press it again. on.
Yeah, neutral.
Yeah, it's in neutral.
Does it work?
Now when you switch it off, did it automatically go into park? No.
No. Shift to P it says.
Yes, nice. We're in neutral. Oh my, everything's working on this. Oh, I've said it. I've said it. Now we've got the Urus in neutral, we can attempt to push it inside the unit. There's a problem with that.
I don't think it's going to drive straight.
Well, this wheel wants to go that way, and this wheel wants to go that way. So it looks like the skates were the only option, if my dad couldn't find where to jack it up from. Eventually, he got there. And with the front wheels on skates, we should now be able to pull the car.
Oh
Tactic, pull it from the chassis leg, because if it doesn't work, it might pull the chassis leg straight.
no. No, that's a good knot.
That's a good knot.
Yeah, solid.
I'm not...
Oh my.
It seems we finally got it moving. But one question you might be thinking is, how did this Urus end up in this state? Well, before I bought it, I did check it out on Car Vertical, and I can see that the car was March crashed in March 2023. And then I found this footage from March 2023, which was covered by some newspapers. A Lamborghini Urus crashes into a bus stop. I don't know how they've managed that, but it looks like the snow had something to do with it. Meanwhile, was making some good progress on getting it inside the unit so we could begin work on it.
So to help this V8, we've brought an OG back. Yeah.
The C63 come in handy just to pull the Urus a little bit straighter so we could get it inside. What a sight that is. Car's in, we've just got to get it through the ramp there, so we're going to try one theory before we try anything else, which is start it, put it in reverse and see if it will just drive back, even though the wheels are like that. All it's got to do is go in a straight line. Yeah, we don't know whether it'll rev because there's no throttle bodies. Finally, we're in my workshop and we can begin to see how bad the damage actually is on this Urus. Okay, I found why this side is steering the wrong way.
Oh. That's the most bent one we've seen.
That is very bent. How the hell was he bent that there?
Oh, it has as well.
Oh my god! That might be a good thing that it's bent that though, because if it hadn't have bent that, something else would have bent. Or snapped. It seems the track rod end and the inner tyre rod are completely bent. On the other side, they're fine. Yeah, this side's fine. Oh, we don't lose them either.
You're the bolt boy.
Oh, Bolt Boy. Do you want to pick that up, Bolt Boy? Yeah, good Bolt Boy.
Hannah started removing all of the bolts for the under tray, which looks like it's going to need replacing, so we can inspect to see if there's any more damage hiding underneath it all. But things were looking pretty good. If you looked at it from here, you'd never think it had been in an accident. Well, good news is it starts. It also kind of drives. Bad news is this chassis leg is going east and that one is facing north. We need to work out how we're going to fix that, and the only way to work out how we're going to fix it is to find out how far back the damage has actually gone. And to do that, we're going to need to remove everything off around it. Engine, wheels, suspension, the full lot. We're straight into it. We're straight into it. We're committed. We're doing it. Let's go. First step, let's get the wheels off. Look at that!
Yeah,
that's
wow.
abysmal, isn't it?
Why doesn't it?
Now you can see how bad this leg has actually moved. Pretty far. Now I'm onto the arch lining. Roll the front part of it and the back part. It seems both are damaged, but behind it seems all good. Now my plan is to take this engine out. We're going to do it exactly like we did the RS6. Straight down on the subframe. And to do that, I've got to detach anything on the subframe which is attaching it to the car. Like these upper control arms, which we've easily removed now. Okay, away. And then all the electrical connections, like the ABS wire, the brake wear wire, and the ground wires bolted to the chassis. And instead of disconnecting the hydraulic brake line and losing all the brake fluid, I'm going to unbolt the caliper from the wheel hub and then hang the caliper up on the damaged part of the chassis. Because I imagine it's not a straightforward job to bleed these brakes. Eventually the huge caliper was off and I can hang it up.
For safety, because this is coming down, I'm taking this off.
These brake discs are around £5,000 a brake disc. And because they're made out of carbon, they break pretty easily. So the last thing I want to do is drop them on the floor. And once they're off, I'm going to disconnect the airline, go into the air ride suspension. That way we can drop it all down. And my dad's done the same on the other side. Time to go underneath. The engine and the gearbox is all going to come down as one whole piece, so we need to disconnect everything that is connected to the engine and gearbox, including the prop shaft, which is going to the back. We need to take that off, and the exhaust we need to get out the way so we can get to the prop shaft. So first step, these trays and the exhaust. Let's do it. I've gone straight to the back of the car to disconnect the electrical connections going to the exhaust valve, and once they're disconnected, I can start unbolting the exhaust hangers connecting it to the chassis of the car, ready to lower the exhaust to the floor, whilst my dad and Hannah are getting off all the under trays, blocking the exhaust from coming off. But some bolts are a little rusty.
It's 3 years old.
Yeah, but that looks like it's 30 years old. Yeah, that's gone.
You know what? They're not going to come undone.
Get the grinder out.
That's exactly what we did. Although this car is only 3 years old, it seems that some of the bolts underneath it have completely rusted on the exhaust. But as you can see from the crash, it seems that this driver wasn't shy of driving this car in the snow, so he probably got exposed to a lot of salt on the roads. Once those bolts are ground off, we can start pulling the exhaust away. And it is really light.
Look at that, it's so light. Titanium.
Next step.
Get his prop shaft out, baby.
To get the prop shaft out, we've got to remove a heat shield first, and underneath that heat shield is another brace that we've got to undo. Now the prop shaft is connected at the gearbox, runs down the centre of the car, and then connects to the rear diff. And there's 6 bolts holding it to the rear diff, which is what I'm undoing now. When the bolts are loose, I should be able to knock it free.
Whoa! Prop shaft off.
And then to pull the drive shaft away from the gearbox, I've got to break off this one-use clip here, and then it should just slide away from the gearbox.
Whey.
Which it did.
Off we go. Prop shaft.
After that, my dad started removing all of the bolts holding the gearbox mount to the chassis of the car, because the gearbox is all coming down with the engine as well. And there's a fair few bolts for this. So the steering column is going to stay connected to the car, so that means the steering rack has got to come off. So to disconnect the steering column from the steering rack, it is that bolt just there, which I'm going to get into from here. We're moving pretty fast because this is really similar to the RS6 we did.
Steering rack off. Don't turn the steering.
Now my dad's disconnecting the electrics for the gearbox.
That hurt my knuckle.
Then I'm going to start loosening off the bolts which hold the subframe to the chassis of the car. And it seems like one of them is missing. Well, it's still there, it's just snapped off, because it looks like the chassis has completely ripped out the bolt. And the last few are on the side here, which Chris is going to undo.
Are you ready? Let's go.
Next up, make sure all the electricals are disconnected at the top, and I know exactly where they are because we did it in the RS6. But they were actually better placed than the RS6. All the electrical connectors were sitting on top here with the engine ECU.
Lamborghini.
Which made things way easier. Chris started removing all the plugs for the engine ECU. I then pulled the ECU out of the way. My dad disconnected the fuel line.
Whoa!
Whilst me and Hannah disconnected some more wiring which needed to come off.
We've got to take this frame off here just to get to that little nut behind there.
To get the strut out.
That's so stupid.
That is a silly design.
Not a good design, but people would get jobs if everything was easy, would they?
It is true. To get to the last bolt which holds the strut to the car, we've got to remove this strut brace. And with that out of the way, you can now access the bolt.
Yes!
Hannah started loosening off the bolts for the strut on the other side, And once she's done that, she's going to move over to the right hand side and remove the bolts for that one. That way the engine, the gearbox and all the suspension could be lowered down all as one whole piece. Look at this bolt. Bent. Bolt's bent. Which means that that could have been in there like that. And we think the subframe's probably gone across. Bent the bolt. It's coming out.
I genuinely thought there would be a lot more things to undo.
Well, I don't know if you've noticed, but half of it's already missing. Now we can push the pallet underneath the engine and loosen the last few bolts holding the subframe to the car, which should lower the engine onto the pallet. Last one, guys. Get excited. Woo. We're about to take a Lamborghini Urus engine out for the first time ever. Yeah. Good. Yeah, boy.
Look at that beast.
Yeah, boy. Look at that. Oh my God. And there it is. And there it is. A huge 4-litre twin-turbo V8 accompanied with an equally as big gearbox. Now that we've got this big lump out of the way, we should be able to inspect this chassis and see how far the damage has actually gone back and what we need to repair.
Okay, this leg is definitely bad. You can see here where the subframe should mount to it there, and well, it's completely gone that way. But I'm hoping we can keep this strut tower in place, because it doesn't actually seem like it's damaged the strut tower, providing it is all straight. But there's no obvious signs that it's actually moved. Like normally if you see if it moved because one of this had moved out the way, or the bolt wouldn't line up properly on here, but everything seems all intact there. Of course we're going to measure it, which is a problem in itself, which I'll tell you in a minute.
But the damage doesn't seem to have gone too far back, which is good news. But the problem is Lamborghini. So in the UK, we have the right to repair, which means we can buy pretty much any part from the manufacturer to repair our cars. Whereas in places like the US, you have to be a registered repairer to buy structural parts. For some vehicles like Porsche, we couldn't buy structural parts for that. We had to buy them in the UK and then take them over to the US to fix the GT3. Whereas on the Lamborghini parts, we can buy these structural parts, we can buy this chassis leg and everything like that. But the one thing they can hold from us in the UK is repair procedures. They don't have to give us the repair procedures, and we're having that problem at the minute. So Lamborghini won't give us the repair procedures because we're not a registered Lamborghini repairer, and the only people which are registered Lamborghini repair body shops is Lamborghini themselves. So we can't even go to a body shop and go, come on, slide it through the back door. But Audi, we can get the repair procedures for, and we can get all the measurements of the chassis. So we now have Audi Q7, which is the same chassis as a Urus, we think, and we hope, measurements for this. We should have the measurements like this of exactly where they need to go, and they also have tolerances. Look, plus or minus 2 millimeters on Audi, which is quite a bit, to be fair. So now I'm going to measure the points on our chassis and see if they match with the measurements that we've got for the Audi Q7, and we're using this tram gauge, which is what they use in the body shops. 470 millimeters.
470.
Let's have a look.
A.
470 plus. Okay, so we know that.
Now you got to go from there to there.
From there, this is the tester. Because we're hoping that this is straight.
We've got 1075, 1076.
What you got?
1110.
1110. It seems we were quite far off. We adjusted the tram gauge to 111 centimeters and see where it's sat. We're well out. Miles out. I don't even think you could get it to that point. There's no way we can get that chassis leg anywhere in that vicinity.
No, it'd have to come out.
Yeah, it'd have to come out. So I can't see the Q7 being the same.
No, I think it's different.
Because look, there's no way, look, so it's obviously there, can't go there, there, can't go there, there, can't go there, unless it's been pushed in, but there's no evidence of it being pushed in, so the Q7 can't be the same. It's definitely a Volkswagen chassis, look, it's got Volkswagen marks all over it. I think we need a Q8.
Q8, 100%. Yeah,
Q7's too small. Even if this, so we've got the measurement of 111 centimeters, and even if this should be 100, there's no way you'd get it to fit. So we need the Q8 measurements, and we can't fit this leg without knowing if this leg is straight, because if we don't know if this leg's straight, then we haven't got anything to measure it against. So we need those measurements. But that also isn't the biggest problem in the book. Remember, this car sat outside for nearly a year without me touching it. And let me explain why. So I won this Lamborghini Urus for £120,000. The cheapest Lamborghini Urus for sale in the UK is £143,000, which is older and higher mileage. But we are getting very, very close with the budget. And the problem is, we cannot find any second-hand parts anywhere. That's why the car's sat here for over a year. When I search on eBay for second-hand parts for the Urus, I can find things like the intercoolers, which are cross-referenced between the Urus and the RS Q8. But when it comes to the actual Lamborghini Urus parts, they seem to be a lot harder to find. And buying each individual part we need off a different seller could take us ages. And the word on the street is that these Uruses, whether they're crashed, whether they're flooded, good, new, anything, they've been getting sent to India. Because I think they're worth a lot more in India than they are here. So we're struggling to get second-hand parts for them anywhere. And if we have to buy everything brand new from Lamborghini, it's going to take us way over the £140,000 mark that we're sort of hoping to rebuild this for. So on this measurement here, it was telling us to measure from B to B there, which is there, to that mountain in there. And we was getting the complete wrong measurement, which is meant to be 110 mil. But the picture on that image is wrong. That is incorrect, and it says on here, diagonal distance between subframe attachment points. And the subframe attachment point is there and there. And what do you know? 1,110 millimeters. That is, if you have a look on there, exactly 1,110 millimeters. So good news then, this leg is all straight. It's in the exact right position that we need it in. We have got a bit broken off at the end, which we'll get onto, but because we know that this leg is straight and we've got the right measurements now, we can start to remove this and try and fit and work out how this one fits onto it. Let's drill this off. Now we think underneath all this seam sealer are these special screws like this, which are like self-tapping screws almost. You can see the other side of them here. So first thing I'm going to do is start wire brushing off all of the seam sealer so then I can access these special bolts. Now these require a special tool to get off, which I don't have, so instead I'm grinding a slot into them and then I can slide my screwdriver in and loosen them. They're not even that tight. Now we know how to get them out. We've just got to repeat that process a lot more times.
I'm stuck in space.
It seems like this chassis leg is just held in with these bolts and panel body.
Minion.
So whilst I was doing one side, my dad was cracking away at doing the other one. And by us taking this apart, we can work out how this sim will go back together. And so far, there's no welding involved at all.
Toss my body up and down on the way.
Okay, they're out. This is panel bonded to this. And this is panel bonded to this. So, to separate it, if we heat it up, Jack taught us this, if you heat it up, it melts the panel bond. Then we should be able to wedge our little thing in there. You see it separated from the panel? Then my dad's gonna stand on this and it's all gonna come out. Whoa! Out comes the heat, and you can actually hear the panel bond crack. once it loses its strength. Then I can wedge my chisel in between the strut tower and the chassis leg. And to be honest, it wasn't really that hard to separate the two. This aluminium is really soft. And out comes the hammer. Let's get this leg away from the car. Yay! Get in there! Whoa, light. We did it. Well done, team. Well done, Hannah. Thanks, Hannah. Thanks, Hannah. Go sort of like. Now we've got to get the chassis leg back in place. This thing here is all broken and perished because it should look kind of like that, which is all broken and perished on that side, but we will fix that. Plan is now, before we start actually fixing stuff, we're still going to break stuff. So we're going to take all this off and then start from there. So we're starting from scratch and rebuilding this Lamborghini from this strut brace forward. Now it's Hannah's time to get involved. She's got to remove all the broken parts from the chassis. We think this is a much better way of putting the thing back together. That way we don't risk damaging anything new that we put onto the car. My dad's using the same technique of wire wheeling all of the seam sealer away, and then he's using the belt sander to grind off the top of the rivets on this one. Then this should pull away. Then with the bolts at the front, they're using the same technique as well. Grind a slot into them, then use the flat-headed screwdriver to loosen them all out. There's damage to a few parts of the chassis on this left-hand side, but they're hoping to keep a lot of it in place. That way it's easier to line up the new parts, because they can use the old parts for a reference.
Wow.
Then my dad's got to make sure everything's nice and clean, ready for the installation of all of the new parts. This is it, the big moment. I've got the leg and I've cleaned up all the parts where panel bond is going to go on. We need to clean it up a bit better, but for now we've just got it roughly in. What the plan to do is now is we're going to slide it in, measure it up and make sure it all lines up. Of course, Lamborghini are not sending us the measurements, so we're going to be using Q7 measurements and hopefully it will line up. So we'll see how far away we are. That's 111 exactly there. We know that one's straight. Okay, so out we come. 111 on there. Put that in. Okay, so it needs to go in a bit more. I think there. That's 111. That's how you fit a chassis leg, everyone. When we was happy with where the chassis leg was sitting, we put a few self-tapper screws just to hold it into place. Then double and triple checked all the measurements we could. Right, now just see if that fits in that other one. Because if it don't, then there's a problem.
Oh,
Yeah?
about there.
Yeah?
I think that's all right.
I think that's good. We're pretty confident that's in the right place then, yeah?
Oh, yeah, as much of mechanic knowledge I have, that's right.
Okay. Fit cover plate, drill holes to 6.8 millimeters for pop rivets.
Why are you still wearing those glasses?
Safety. Time to drill the holes for the rivets. Oh, there we go. And that's in. Remember, we've never done this before. But from my previous experience with rivets, the key is to drill the hole and then slide the rivet in place. That way we can be sure that the panel doesn't move when we go to drill the next hole. Now personally, I don't think the rivets actually add too much to the structure. I think the rivets are just there to squash the existing panel onto the chassis leg, which helps the panel bond set nicely. And it's actually the panel bond which holds most of the structure of the car, which is crazy to think. Once all the holes for the rivets have been drilled out, we've then got to pull the chassis leg back out. Whee! We need to make sure all this is nice and clean, so we've got to panel wipe it all down, panel wipe the inside there, then we get the glue out. Yes, it's glued in. Apply body adhesive or adhesive to entire riveting area using double cartridge gun. Guess what, baby? This is the panel bonding. B part, A part, and they mix together in this tube. This is super strong panel bond, and we've used this stuff before on the BMW M5 that we've rebuilt and one of the Porsches. And it's vital now that we keep the area clean and we spread the panel bond all over the panel. Then we can slide it back into place.
Oh, it's on the aircon line. That's right way up.
Oh, it's like Gunge off CBBC. Now we only have a short period of time to put in all the rivets back into the holes that we've just drilled out. Then we can use the rivet guns to snap them in place.
We've got to rivet them in. Let's go.
This is now squashing the panel onto the chassis leg, which is going to help the panel bond do its job and secure everything in place.
Yes. They're all in.
And just like that, one chassis leg is back on the Urus.
Go.
Yeah! That's how you safety inspect it. Whoa! Volkswagen Audi group. What we're going to do, we've got to build up this side here, which swoops around here and connects here. And this side also swoops around. But our plan is, because we've still got this in place, we know that this is in the right area and this bracket is in the right area. So we are gonna put this in right here, bolt that all in and rivet it all in, and this side piece, because then we know that's in place. We can take the measurements off that to build that side up. The weird thing with this, OEM, they don't use the
Panel bond.
They just literally bolt it together with these weird screws.
Here's one of the weird screws.
Look, weird screws, and look at that. They're just weird screwed all together. Okay, let's go. This part of the chassis doesn't really hold any structure as such. It just holds the things like the wings and the headlights. And I think that's the reason why it's just held in with these almost self-tapping screws. And none of that panel bond. But by doing this, it makes it a much easier job to replace. Now you see us here, we're actually adding panel bond. It doesn't say to in the repair procedures, but by adding it, we can't see that it would hurt. It's only going to add strength to it. These are called flow screws. I don't know why they choose to use them, but they're basically just self-tappers. The special tool we don't have, so we're going to go with this, which is just an E-bit, and we're just going to drive it in place. At the factory, I'm sure they'd have a machine driving all of these bolts in. And there was an option to use different screws, but they didn't look like the OEM ones. And we wanted to make this look like it came out the factory, so we're using the original flow screws, but with our makeshift tool. Now we can line up the next panel, clamp it in place, and then drill out the holes for rivets. Unlike the other part of the chassis, which is held together with the screws, this part is held together with rivets. And we've got to do the same procedure as before. Drill out the hole, slide the rivet in, then use the gun to snap it off. And as easy as that, that's the front part of the chassis replaced.
Tony,
Yes, Matthew.
what's the next step?
The next step is to fit the other side. This part here actually sits, you can see, look, there's a gap there, so it actually sits a bit higher. So what I'm going to do is measure from the bottom of it here to the bottom of that, and then make sure it's the same gap on the other side, because at the minute we're missing that bottom bracket. Then we've got to figure out where this sits in regards to, does it go forward, does it go back? We need to know where that sits. And the best way to do that is to measure it from the other side. From the center of the bolt on the strut brace to the new panel is 38 centimeters. So we're going to line up the new part of the chassis with that. And once we're happy with where it sits, just like the chassis leg, we're going to use self-tappers to hold it in place.
Oh yeah, 38.
And then re-measure it to make sure it hasn't moved. Then it's the case of doing the exact same thing we did on the right hand side, but this time to the left hand side. And as we've done it once before, it makes the job so much more easier. Clamp the panels in place, drill out the holes, slide the rivets in place, and then snap the rivets off using the gun. Now I'm not actually going to attach this panel to the rest of the car yet, because we are missing that bracket which sits underneath it. Look at that! So once I've fitted these bunch of rivets on this side, I'm going to unscrew it all, and the self-tappers as well, and lift it out of place. Then my new bracket arrived and I can put that into place now. Then I can slide in the piece I've just built up back into place. Self-tapper in that bracket which I've just received. Then drill out the pilot holes for the flow screws which are about to hold that bracket to the panel which I've just riveted. Hopefully that makes sense. I find it so interesting to find out how cars like this Urus worth hundreds of thousands of pounds are held together. And it's not by much. Bits of panel bond and a few self-tapping screws. It's crazy to think. But I guess this makes it much easier to replace stuff when it has been in an accident, and slightly cheaper. And all of this stuff is decided to crumple in an accident, which it has. Now I should be fitting this part of the chassis back into place for the final time, bolting in them flow screws, and putting in the last couple of rivets, which will hold this piece to the rest of the car. Before you know it, it's all in place. Okay, now we're on and we're working. We've done the strength test. We've got to make it paint. Does that make sense?
No.
We've got to make it the same colour. Because when we make it the same colour, it'll almost be like it never happened. But our first step to do that is to sand it, and then we're going to etch primer over the bare metal to prevent it from rusting, even though aluminium doesn't rust. Don't rust.
So why do you need to prevent it from rusting?
Because it corrodes. Finally, I can put my painting experience to the test. First, we're going to rough down the panel with a bit of Scotch pad, making sure it's nice and clean and ready for paint. Then we can begin masking it up. Now hopefully, after we painted this thing, if you looked at the car, you might not have even known it had been in an accident. Sealer! We've now got to seal the gaps in between the panels, which is not our strongest point, and it is really difficult to get looking like OEM, but we can try our best. Next up, paint. We had the paint mixed up at the body shop. All we've got to do is add the base coat into a tub, then 2 parts thinner. Now let me show you the Urus. I am over the moon with our repair. The sealer, not so much, but it is doing the job. Here's the standard part which come off, and here's our replaced part. I think it actually looks better. Yes, we have got 2 straight chassis legs in now. Hopefully. We'll find out when we start putting the engine in. The only thing we haven't got is this end plate here. We've sent that to Bob at the machine shop because it requires that TIG welding, but we can do that once the engine's in. No drama. We might just have to paint the edges. But again, I don't even think Lamborghini painted up to this section here. Can you tell a chassis leg's been put in? I'm going to say yes because the sealer's not quite OEM, but is it doing the job? Yes. And is it safe? Well, we followed the procedures, so I can't see why it wouldn't be. I think we've done an okay job. The next step to find whether everything's straight is to put the engine in, and we'll see if everything lines up. But before we put the engine in, we need to do a little bit of work to it. When we pulled this huge engine out, we noticed it was extremely dirty and really dusty, and it only seems right to get it clean before we put it in. So the ice blasters came along. They use high pressure dry ice to blast the engine, which makes it super clean without damaging any of the parts. This stuff is so effective, and we've used it on so many different cars already. We can use it on rubber parts, plastic parts. It makes it super clean and it barely makes a mess. It also doesn't soak it like a jet wash as well. Look how much dirt is clearing off the suspension. We can even use it on all the delicate parts of the engine as well, like the turbos, the alternator. But there was a downside to this all. Although the engine now looks super clean, it did uncover a few problems.
Oh, that looks mint, doesn't it?
Are you going to break the news, Tony?
Yeah, we've got a few things on it.
What, broken?
This is bent. Put that on there. And it's not touching there.
Yeah.
There's a gap under there.
Yeah, what about...
Hold it on this side. Look.
Yeah.
There's no gap.
So when you...
And
it doesn't
see
move.
that?
Oh, the engine mount's cracked.
Yeah.
Oh, Susie. So do you need a subframe and an engine mount? We're probably best to change the subframe anyway, innit? It's been absolutely clarted. We also found a crack in the subframe, alongside the crack in the engine mount, which wasn't looking good. for the car or for my budget. Remember, we bought this Urus for £120,000 and the cheapest one on the internet at the minute is £143,000, which makes mine look expensive. But remember, when I was bidding on this Urus last year, they were worth a lot more because since then, they released the new all singing, all dancing Urus Performante, which is faster and lighter, which didn't help the price of my Urus at all. But we think we found a solution. Engine mount, Audi Q7.
Is that the same?
£66. Bargain. 66 quid, that.
That sounds too cheap.
3-day postage, that's going straight in my basket. We found an engine mount off an Audi Q7 for £66, so we ordered it. Q7, front subframe, 350 quid. With engine mounts, and anti-roll bar and drop links. And a Q7 subframe. We just assumed that if the chassis was the same measurements as a Q7, why wouldn't the subframe and the engine mounts be? Here it is! Our Audi Q7 subframe. Bargain.
No.
It's not the same.
What do you mean it's not the same? Why is that not the same?
If you have a look at the 4 inline holes on the new subframe here, but the ones on the Urus, they've got 2 extra ones underneath.
What's the issue?
It's different.
If you look here, even still look, see this here, this bracket, where's that on there?
That way around.
So the subframe didn't fit. But what about the engine mount? Right, that says 5.3 and this says 5.1. And this has got 782, 215, 150, 182. 182. Yes. Yes. We've got one thing right, guys. So this is off an... What the hell is going on? This is off an SQ7. But this is the same.
Oh, I don't know whether it is the same.
Oh, no. Is it the wrong side?
Oh, it's not the same.
Oh.
No, can you see that?
So we can't put it in.
That bolt is in line with the sensor, look.
Right.
Have a look at that. There's the sensor.
Oh, is
That
it going
bolt's at the back?
Oh no. We found out I ordered an engine mount for the right hand side, not the left hand side of the engine. And then we found out why I ordered it.
Is this one
What's
cracked?
happened?
So we were thinking that it's this side that we need to replace.
Oh yeah.
But it's actually that side, because that side's cracked. But this side's also cracked. So they're both broken. This one's cracked here, look. On the outer side. And then, come round here. That one's also cracked there. Oh. Okay. So we need another one now then. Another engine mount.
Another subframe.
And another subframe. We have finally got a solution. This is another one. This was £700. Weirdly enough, and quite worryingly, it says on here, Audi Q7, but it also says Bentayga and it also says Urus, and the guy assures me it's come off a Urus, and it does have the little tab things that we need, so I can see that this one might work, and I cannot leave this video without knowing that chassis work that we've done on the Urus is straight or not. So my plan is, we've got to transfer everything of that onto this. We can't quite put the engine in at the minute because we don't have the parts to fix the engine, so my plan is just to get everything off that apart from the engine and get it on there, including the suspension, and we should have a rolling Urus by the end of it, providing the chassis straight and the subframe actually fits. Let's transfer everything off that onto this. This is going to be a big job. Let's go. First job is to pull the engine away from the subframe. We're going to use the engine crane to do this, but we've got to make sure the engine mounts are disconnected from the subframe. There's 2 bolts each side, which me and Liam have both undone. There we go. 2 bolts. Once we've undone those 2 bolts, we're then going to move on at disconnecting the drive shafts, because we're going to lift the engine and gearbox away from the subframe with the drive shafts as well. There's one big bolt which holds each drive shaft to the wheel hub. I've disconnected mine on my side, and now we're moving over onto Liam's side and disconnecting it there. Next up, it's the gearbox mounts. There's 3 of these bolts holding the gearbox mount to the subframe. We need to disconnect all of these as well. Technically speaking, should just lift up. But as always, things aren't always straightforward. There was one more bolt. Instead of trying to get to this bottom bolt because it's underneath, what we're going to do is undo this bolt here, which goes through the engine mount, which is just in there. That should drop the subframe down and hire the engine up. Plan A didn't work, but I'm sure Plan B will. Once we've unscrewed this huge bolt each side of the engine mount, we can now lift the engine crane up, which will separate the engine and gearbox away from the subframe. And finally, we have the subframe and all the suspension separated from the engine. Subframe's out. It's a good job we didn't try and get that bolt from underneath because it's there. So that is so dumb that would mean if you need to change your engine mount, it's basically an engine out job. Because how would you get to that bolt?
When that's on top of it.
Yeah, when the engine's on top of it. Why not put it underneath? That's a bit silly, isn't it? We now got to transfer all of this stuff which is connected to this subframe onto our brand new second-hand subframe. And then we can try and line it up to the car and see if it all's straight. So I'm excited. Now it's a long, tedious job of disconnecting everything off this old subframe and moving it onto the new one. That's both sides suspension, the steering rack, the under tray, and the huge anti-roll bar. We've all got to get off this old subframe and leave it bare. And there's also damage to the steering rack, you can see here. Right, whilst we're here, we might as well replace this bent trap rod end and inner tie rod. Left. Oh, did that go? Yeah, boy! Look at that, wibbly wobbly. It's out. This is what we've got. A new one from Volkswagen. Luckily, we think it's only damaged the inner tie rod and the trap rod end. So they're the two parts that we're replacing.
Edge of the thread to the knot.
Then Liam's measuring the threads on one side and matching them up to the other side so we can get it roughly in line. Then I can screw on the new outer tie rod. Of course the car will have to be tracked up afterwards, but if we can get it roughly straight, it's better than nothing. That is good. Everything is good. We can start building up this subframe to go onto the car now, which is really great news because that's what I've been dying to do. And if it doesn't line up after all of this, we've wasted our time. Now let's start fitting all the parts to our brand new second-hand subframe. Starting off with the steering rack. This slides into place and two bolts hold it to the subframe. Then it's the huge anti-roll bar. Then the rest of the parts can be bolted on once we've got the subframe attached to the car. And we're hoping it all lines up to our chassis repair now. Yeah, I'm in.
You got both bolts in?
Both bolts in and lined up. Sensationally. He's in. That seems pretty solid. Could bolt this all up and we can finally get it on the wheels. Come on. And it's good news, everything does all line up. I don't know why we doubted ourselves. These bolts holding the subframe in will need to be replaced and I have ordered them. The bolts that we're putting in are just good enough to hold it up, but they are a little bent. Next step, we can start attaching all the suspension, starting off with the left-hand side. I'm going to push the suspension up and Liam's going to put in the 3 bolts which hold the top of the strut to the chassis of the car. Then we can start putting in the control arms. There's 2 arms at the bottom, there's the anti-roll bar drop link, and then there's 2 arms at the top. Finally, the heat shield for the brake disc. Tighten that onto the wheel hub. Then the £5,000 worth of carbon brake disc. Gently does it. After that, the caliper slots over the top and the 2 bolts slide in the back of the caliper. Good news, this side is on and connected, bar the trap rod end, which we'll do very, very last because we need to connect the steering rack up. But it's looking good. It's starting to look more like a car. We've actually progressed. Can't believe it. Just the next side to do. Then hopefully we can put the wheels on, lower it down, and actually roll it for the first time. Let's go. Unfortunately, this right-hand side didn't go as smoothly as the left-hand side. As we started putting this together, we noticed something else which was broke. This arm here, let's check this out. If you look at it down here, it goes down and then goes hello that way. Now, come and look at the other one.
Yeah, that's definitely bent.
I think I've ordered one, but this bolt going across here is known as the death bolt. because it's a steel bolt and it goes through an aluminium sleeve, and they are really, really difficult to get out. So I think we're going to really struggle to change that now, but I'm desperate to get this on its wheels, so I think we put everything in apart from that arm and lower it down just to feel victorious. But yeah, we've got to work out how to get that death bolt out. Okay, let's carry on, it's a shame. These things always happen when rebuilding crash damaged cars, so it's expected now, but that top arm is definitely bent. But that's not going to stop us putting the rest of the suspension together and hopefully getting this Urus back on 4 wheels. Now I'm connecting the steering column up to the steering rack, which is easily accessed without the engine in. Then after that, I can attach the track rod ends to each side of the wheel hub. Left hand side first, then the nut goes on, then the right hand side. And we're almost there now. Both sides suspension is on. The wheels are both pointed in a straight line-ish. We're gonna put it on its wheels now, lower it down, and we've had a successful 3:45 in the morning job. These late nights and early mornings sure do pay off when you get the satisfaction of seeing this. The Urus back on all 4 wheels.
It's low.
It's very low because there's no air in the air rod. But look at that. It's down. That wheel's kind of straight.
It's straighter than it was.
And that wheel's more this way, but that will be to do with our arm. But I think success. All we need to do now is put this engine in, but repair it before we put it in. Woo! What a shift. So the front end crash seems to have took a lot of the engine with it, and a lot of the front is damaged. The pulleys are damaged on the front here. There's wiring which is damaged. There's hose which have got holes in it. I've just noticed that one. That's not good. But the main thing that I want to change whilst the engine out is this inlet manifold, because you cannot access this with the engine in, as we know from the RS6. So we're going to take off this and anything else damaged on the engine, like this throttle body here. Let's get this inlet manifold off, and if it's anything like the RS6, it's going to be a bit of a job to do it, but let's get it off.
Can I take the drive shafts off?
The inlet manifolds are the last thing the air passes through before it goes into the engine. And if there's any holes in them, then it's going to cause a huge boost leak. So all the work that the turbos are doing will be pointless. Now in true Audi fashion, we're going to have to remove another part just to access the bolts for the inlet manifold, which will be this engine mount bracket, which my dad's removing now. And once that's off, I can access all the bolts now to take the inlet manifold off the engine, ready for it to be replaced. Yes. No flaps. So in the RS6, there used to be flaps in here, which open and close for like, I think it's for cold start and fuel efficiency and that. And they were an absolute nightmare, but there's literally no flaps in there. But, do you know what's horrible? On the screen, yeah, on the screen now, I'll put an inlet manifold of a Lamborghini Gallardo up. And this is an inlet manifold of a Lamborghini Urus. What happened? But I guess the plus side of things is that this inlet manifold was only £172. And I imagine a metal one would have been more expensive, but a metal one probably wouldn't have broken an accident. Now I can refit the new inlet manifold. From the inlet manifold, we then have this throttle body. I'm gonna say that's good, you know. These were expensive. Yeah, that one might be getting thrown. A new throttle body was needed. £193 for one of these, but we're not taking any risk because it's basically an engine out job just to replace them. And there was also damage to the other side, another £193. Next up, the aircon compressor. This was also damaged in the accident. Off we come. It's quite hard to see on camera, but the actual pulley is bent, and you can't replace the pulley separately. So I've had to buy a whole new aircon compressor. This was £746. AC compressor is on. To power the AC compressor, it's powered by the crank, which is spinning around here, but it won't spin by Bluetooth. You need a belt. But for the belt, it needs a tensioner to keep it tight. The tensioner looks like Shark is at it. and the roller pulley there has also looked like the shark's had it. So we need to replace them. Luckily, we've got them as well. It's getting more and more expensive. Here we go. A new tensioner was £67. And to get this one off, I've got to add tension to the tensioner, slide in a punch to hold it in place, and then I can access the bolt underneath. After that, I should be able to pull it away from the car. This one's a look at that.
Oh.
It's a preloaded, like, it's you remove the pin and then you... Now I can fit the new tensioner to the engine. There's just 2 bolts holding this in place. And next thing to replace is this roller pulley, which just guides the belt round. £39 for this pulley. Then it's time for the belt. £22. Yeah. And once I pulled the pin out of the tensioner, it was ready to go on the front. But that wasn't all. Next step, there is more damage here. This is the damage we can see. We don't know if there's any more hidden damage, but there's all damage to all these pipes. If we have any air leaks in the boost pipes, it's going to be causing power loss. So we need to make sure we change all of these as well. Let's get them out. This engine is really complicated. Once again, more damage to plastic stuff. And there's more parts that we've got to replace, especially induction pipes. Oh, that's a good job. We have changed that. Look at all that. What you can see here is around £270 worth of plastic parts and silicone hoses. Again, I did not expect this much damage when I bought the car, but you win some and you lose some. Solid work, look at that. Next up, we've got this damaged coolant pipe here. Although it is supposed to be flat for clearance, the part where the hose clips onto it isn't supposed to be flat. So my dad's using heat now to try and soften the metal and get it back to its original shape.
It's not round, but it's better than it was.
Dad's tried to get it out, but we're not going to risk it. We don't want it to leak once we put it on the car. So I think we're going to take this off, and instead of buying it from Lamborghini, which is... How much do you think that hose is? £516.
What?
£516 that hose is.
Why?
So 100% we are definitely not buying that hose, but I know just the place to take this to to fix it. But we won't tell him it was £516 because he's going to charge us like £416 to fix it. We'll take it off the engine for now because it is late.
Oh, good catch.
Absolute Spider-Man reactions. It's 9:15 now, so tomorrow we'll take this to Bob. But for now, we're going to do something Hannah doesn't know about, because Hannah's probably here tomorrow and she'll see her engine and we need to make out that it's not modified. But we've got a solution back here. This is the exhaust of the Urus. And some would say one of the most important parts of a Lamborghini. It's the part that Lamborghini are known for, the sound. And the newer the cars get, the tamer the sound gets. We've got a solution, and it's from Valvetronic. Right, it is a full turbo back kit, and look at this. Look at the cat inside. It's just downsized slightly. So I don't know if they are going to need a tune with these, or just because there's so much more room for activities in there, it's just going to be louder. We don't actually know. But again, Hannah wants to keep it stock, so we'll just tell her it's stock. She's never driven one before, so she wouldn't know. Time to remove the old catalytic converters and downpipes, which is so much easier now that we have the engine out. Look at that, look at all the restriction. And now we've got high flow sports caps. So much more room.
If you're enjoying this video, please subscribe. But if you're not, don't bother.
Time to fit on the new Valvetronic downpipes, which actually attach to the original part of the Urus exhaust, or the front part anyways. There's still more where that came from. Part of the exhaust is on, the engine is almost ready to go in. Remember, the engine's got to sit on engine mounts, and that was our issue in the last video. We had 2 cracked engine mounts here. One there, and one in there as well. Now, we've got 2 of
a Bentley Bentayga. We only used these because the Urus ones were special order, and also the Lamborghini ones were £156 each, as opposed to our £70 each. Which are almost exactly the same. You can see this one, that one's identical. It is the same. But on this side, for some reason, look, Urus decided to flip it. Well, Lamborghini decided to flip it. So we're hoping we can split the backside of this one and take the backside of that one and make a hybrid one and make it work. So we're hoping we can split these out. So that's what we're going to try now. And then we can fit it all to the car and hopefully slide the engine in. So can we split these engine mounts apart? We sure can.
Yes!
This one onto that one now. These engine mounts are full of oil, which helps softens the vibrations inside the cabin caused by the engine. And they're also electronically controlled, so the ECU can tell it whether to stiffen the engine mount or to soften it, depending on which driving mode you're in. And we're hoping all of this is still gonna work after we've used half of a Urus engine mount onto half of a Bentayga engine mount. But I can't see why it wouldn't. It looks pretty much identical, just this time without the crap. We've got to fit these first because this bolt here we can't get to with the engine in. See ya. In true Audi fashion again, they put bolts in places which are really difficult to get to, but this time not so much because the engine is out. I've done one side and my dad's done the other.
Both engine mounts in.
What we're going to do, because we're planning on hopefully trying to drive this by the end, and we can't drive it on these tyres because look, perish. We think it's a good time to get these wheels off and send them to Wheelmania, so we need to get this wheel off and send it to Wheelmania so they can put 2 fresh tyres on it and we might be able to drive it.
Oh my god! That's gonna break the kit.
It was like a Porsche centre bolt, that was.
Danny's gonna take it. Go, Danny! Now it's time for us to put the engine back in once and for all.
First attempt. Getting the engine in.
We're putting this in a different way to how we took it out. This time we're trying to push the engine in with the subframe already in place, and then lower the engine onto the engine mount to put the bolt through. Which proved to be a little harder than first thought, but it did help us find a problem that we didn't know exists. We missed some. Well, there's a huge hole in this inlet manifold.
That hole's massive.
Yeah.
Have we got another one of them?
No.
What?
Because we never had that. We never ordered one of them because we thought that one was fine. Okay, so if we got to pull it out a bit, but now we're stuck, we're gonna have to special order one.
Not good news.
How have we missed that? The only way you realised that that was broken is when you went to push that then it made noise.
Yeah, then I seen
that
that it
and
was
you went, "What
moving. I was
happened?"
like, well, that's not shouldn't move like that. So it's a good job we found now though, because otherwise, if we put it in, then we was like, why is it not running right? We would have never have seen that in the car. I would have had to take it all the way out.
We were this close to putting it in.
Yeah. So now I've got to remove the throttle body so I can see more of the damage. Oh, the little bit of plastic's in there.
That is the whole piece.
It's not looking good. So instead of wasting time, I've got to start removing this inlet manifold as well. Look at that. I didn't want to risk repairing this, especially with the amount of pressure that goes through this inlet. So instead, we've got to find a new one. But in the meantime, we went to the machine shop. It needs to be round, so a hose can go on it. So I could drop off this coolant hose, which is supposed to be round, and we're hoping Bob can work his magic on it. Oh! Wow, that should work.
Thanks, Bob.
We're winning. Euro Spares saved the day. They took one of these off the Urus that they were breaking and gave it to my dad. What a winner
that is. So now we've got an inlet manifold. Now we've got a circular coolant pipe as well, thanks to Bob. We can install all of this and hope this is the last bit that's going to cause us issues. I really highly doubt that. So let's get rid of this one with a broken hole in it and fit the good one, and then we can continue the job we actually started doing. We're just putting the engine in. We just got to be careful not to damage this on the way in. Things are looking upwards now. Coolant hose fix, and we have a brand new second-hand inlet manifold. I've already bolted the inlet manifold to the engine. Now we can bolt back on the throttle body, and we're ready for the engine this time to go back into place. We've got to try and push the engine into the engine bay and then line it up with the engine mounts. Then we can slide the bolt through the engine mount and onto the engine. After that, we can tighten the subframe up. Yes! We're never doing it that way again. Ever. Now that's done, we can lift the car in the air and the engine will stay in it, and we can go underneath and put the bolts in which hold the gearbox to the chassis of the car, and tighten up the remaining bolts underneath.
Drive shaft going on.
I know the Americans like to call this a drive shaft, but we like to call it a prop shaft. But this slides onto the back of the gearbox and goes all the way down the car and connects to the differential. And there's a few bolts in the middle which hold it up. Then I'm on the front of the engine connecting the new plastic boost pipes to each side of the throttle bodies. And a few coolant hoses as well. I think next up I'm going to try and get the drive shafts in. To get the drive shafts in, I had to loosen off these top two arms so I could pull the suspension back, which then gave me enough room to slide the drive shaft into the gearbox and into the wheel hub as well. Once I tighten the big nut on the wheel hub, I can then slide in the top two arms back into place and put the bolts in and sort out all the electrical connections and brake lines on the suspension. Then I'm moving back onto the top of the engine and putting back in all the clips and trims and coolant hoses on top, including the engine's ECU. Everything is roughly in, but now we're at the point where, because the whole front end was literally ripped off the car, we have no idea how it went together. So all we're doing is we've got your Euro spares diagram, which we've got in here, and we've ordered literally more than we need so that if we don't use anything, we're going to send it back. And we're just looking at part numbers, for example, 147BB and then 1447BC. We look at the part number, Hannah tries to find it, and then we put it on, and then we go from there and keep running forward. So right next up is the hose, that's gone on, and then after that we need solenoid valve, a 1671D, that's the next thing to find. This went on for hours. Finding the right part, checking to make sure it was right, handing it over to my dad, and then my dad was fitting it to the car. Because all these parts were ripped off in the accident and didn't come with the car, we have no idea where all of it went. And we're only going off diagrams, which aren't the best. We were all looking for nuts and bolts to make sure we used the proper OEM ones, and then looking back on the diagram to make sure we were putting them in the right place.
That goes in the top.
Yeah? Looks right, doesn't it? And then that one, do you reckon that one's the one that goes... It's got to go in like there somehow. There was water pumps, solenoids, and even electrical connections which were ripped off. But we think we had a solution for the electric side. This was completely unnecessary, but it's really helped with time. So what we've done here is, because there's loads of plugs missing all over the everywhere, the whole engine loom has got plugs missing all over the place. It's really hard to find out what goes where without a wiring diagram, because we don't have one and Lamborghini won't give us one. We managed to get a full wiring loom from Euro Spares, very cheap, and we're just going to, now we know exactly where everything goes and we can take all the connectors off them. And the good thing as well, we can use this on other cars as well. All the Audis and Volkswagens use the same plug, so at least now we can find out.
I feel like you're trying to justify this purchase. Terrifying.
Yeah, but this is, all this is inside your car.
All of that for that sensor.
Either that, or we get a whole of a Urus and look at all the plugs on it.
You basically have at this point.
Seems extreme, but it is the most logical way we thought of working out where all these connectors went. And the least time consuming. Now my dad can deepin the connectors off the wiring loom that we bought and pin them onto the original wiring loom. We now know exactly where they go and which colour wire goes into which pin. We've just got to do this 100 times over. There's a lot of broken electrical connectors on this car. New connecting bar. Yeah.
I can't wait to see Danny use a ratchet.
Yeah. Am I doing good? Thanks, Hannah.
What is you doing?
What are you doing?
What are you
Do I
doing
not
now?
need to take it out?
What was going on just then? Okay, I don't know where we're at in the video at this point. We've spent hours on this. We've built up a full radiator pack, which on a normal car is fairly simple. And this car really, it gets complex. You're gonna have to bear with me through this section and put your full thinking caps on because it's confusing. On a radiator pack, we have got aircon condenser. So this cools the gas in the aircon. That's fine, it's a completely separate unit. It has a feed pipe and it also has a return pipe. They will go to that. And on the car, we have a feed pipe and a return pipe. Easy, light work, no problem at all. Then we have an intercooler on the left-hand side of the car here and an intercooler on the right-hand side of the car. This is quite common. Intercoolers are for each turbo. So we've got 2 turbos on the car. On the top here, one is for the left-hand side and one is for the right-hand side. It gets sucked in through the top of the turbo, round the turbo, blown out the bottom here, and then this pipe would go down here, connect down to this intercooler, round the bottom of it, and come out the bottom there, which is this one. It gets sucked through there and then into our inlet manifold with high pressure in it. Light work, and it does exactly the same on the other side. It's a symmetrical image. Our issue is the cooling system on this car. It must really struggle with cooling because not only do you have one big radiator here for the engine, which would usually consist of one water pump in the engine here, which would blow water, hot water through the top of the rad. It would then flow down and come out through the bottom of the rad and go back into the engine. Simple, light work. You'd have a thermostat in there. Job's done. They've even put an electric thermostat in, but we won't even get onto that because that's not our issue. That wasn't enough. They decided they wanted to put one more radiator here and then another radiator here because the big radiator on the front of the car wasn't enough. Not only that, they also decided to put an extra water pump for these radiators. Extra water pump because one wasn't enough. And then also on this side, they decided to put another water pump for these radiators because 2 wasn't enough. And it gets worse because down here is a solenoid. And this solenoid is used for the gearbox cooling, which has a full separate cooling system. When the gearbox oil is cold, the solenoid shuts the flow of coolant off going through the cooler at the front. And then when the gear oil gets to temperature, it opens up and lets the coolant go through the radiator at the front, which in turn allows the coolant to cool down and cool the gearbox oil down. And not only that, we found out there's also optional extras on this car to have an auxiliary heating pump. On this Urus, you can have a pump on the side here, on some models, which I think even when you turn your ignition on, it'll be heating up the coolant that goes into the cabin of the car, so you can have a hot car without having the engine on. The issue we're having, we don't know whether this car had an auxiliary heater. We don't think it did, we just think it just had the plug. And now we've got hoses which lead all over the place, and we can't quite figure out what hoses we've got, what hoses we haven't got. We've got loads of hoses from Euro, which we believe are from cars which some have the auxiliary radiator, some don't. And then let me just bring you on to the grand finale. This one. This one. Goes to nowhere apparently. So we were missing some hoses, but instead we just used what we had in the workshop just to connect the pipes up to the correct places. and then wait for the proper ones to arrive. But at least now we can bring the rad pack to the car and connect up all the hoses from the rad pack to the car, including all the intercooler ones and the extra water pumps. It does seem the newer these cars get, the more complex and harder to work on they get. Once the hoses are connected at the top, I'm then going to connect up the air conditioning lines, and then we're almost there. Where my Ferrari at, because don't like Lamborghini anymore. There's the last few bolts which hold the rad pack to the chassis of the car, and that should be job done. I think it is on, plumbed in, and plugged in to an extent. There's still plugs which are ripped out the bottom, but none of these are required for it to start and move. We should be able to put oil in it, and we should be able to put coolant in it without it all pouring all over the floor. But there is one last thing we've got to fit to it before we worry about that, and that's the exhaust that Hannah doesn't know about, because at the minute Hannah's away and she's going to come back to start it, and we need to make sure that exhaust is on before she comes so she doesn't notice it, because it's going to be on the floor. Let's get that on first. Here it is, a full Valvetronic titanium exhaust system for the Urus. Luckily this exhaust is valve, so we can have the choice of whether it's loud or a little bit less loud. We've just got to fit it. It slides into the original front pipes and then works its way from the middle backwards, using all the original mounting points. So, I'm assuming that we can just hang these out the way and we won't get a fault. And we'll plug these ones in to here. It has an additional loom for the new valves. And then the original loom just gets tucked away. Well, we think. Yes, I'm on. That goes into there. Then what we're going to do is route this cable up into the boot. And once I've got that loom up into the boot, I've got to do another one for the other valve on the other side. Connect it to the valve and then slot it up into the same place. And hopefully we can find that inside the car. Almost the final piece of the puzzle, the exhaust tip, which say Valvetronic.
But if Hannah reads it, it says Lamborghini.
Lamborghini. The exhaust tips are wild, and I'm sure most people would know that these are aftermarket. But if Hannah doesn't walk around the back of the car, I think we might just get away with it for the meantime. And now the exhaust is on, it looks unreal. But the job's not finished yet. We've got to connect up those exhaust valves. So I open up the boot, and I need to look for the loom that I've pushed up into the boot from underneath. And it seems quite a tricky place to find. So I had to strip apart a lot of the interior in the boot section to get it. Yeah! Now the wires are found, I can pull them out and put back together all the interior trim that I've just taken apart. Almost there. Here we go. This is our little control box. It's got an aerial on it, so they go in there. So that goes in there, and then this connects up to the 12-volt cigarette lighter, which is hidden away in the boot, which is going to be perfect for this valve system. Little box in there. Yeah, chilling. She won't know. And then this, see that? That'll open and close our valves once we've got the ignition on. They're working.
Yeah.
It's dinging when you do that.
Exhaust is on, valves are working. Let's hear this for the first time and drive it for the first time. But there's a few more little things to do. Let's get to it. Here goes the steel guard to protect everything. This guard goes on to protect the plastic sump for the gearbox. Now, also to get it started on this amazing design car. There's no dipstick, so we don't know how much oil's in there. The only way to find out is to run the car up to temperature and then check it on the dashboard. Sump plug back in. Oh, Valvoline. Fill it. 5W50 boy. That's the wrong grade oil.
Everybody's been telling you how to use a funnel.
Oh, don't believe in it. Funnels is like riding a bike with stabilisers.
Come on then, let's see you do a wheelie.
Oh no.
Keep going, keep going. Keep going. Higher then. Come on. Oh my god! No! It's a family waterfall! Keep going! This is a weird thing because this is part of the engine cover as well. That's just how it is at the minute. We weren't going to put water in it, but we are now because we've made some makeshift hoses for everywhere.
Including this.
Including that, yeah. But that's Lamborghini.
Oh
no, salt bay.
Where?
Dripping out of this one.
Who ain't put that one on?
That one's not coming up.
This was your side.
No, I didn't do that.
No, this was your side.
It looks like coolant was leaking from this top hose which connects to the expansion tank. Oh! It's cracked. Yeah, it's cracked.
Yeah, I can see it's right on the joint.
Oh my god. Another problem. So my dad's going to take this tank off whilst I ordered another one. £35. Audi Q7 3-litre TDI. But in the meantime, I think my dad's found a temporary solution. Tiger seal. He's going to tiger seal over the crack and just hope that it holds out and allows us to run this car just up to temperature. With all that blobbed into place, we put the expansion tank back in along with the coolant. Okay, there's water in it, but it is leaking. We're going to start it now to make sure it does actually start and run, because last time it ran, it was misfiring and all sorts, wasn't it? But we just put that down to that it was not together right. So if this runs, this needs to run properly now and smooth there, then at least one thing's gone right. Else this Ferrari hat is staying on my head. 5 days we've been on this car now, and oh my god, I just hope it actually runs right. There's a waterfall.
I don't think the tiger seal works.
There's a waterfall. We need so many more parts. We are well and truly in the red with this car. The amount of money we spent, time we spent on it. But at the end, if we can get a good car, it's worth it. There's no point quitting because you won't have a car at the end, is there? Quitters never win. Now, after all that work, let's hope this thing starts. Please work. Yeah? Hey, sounds alright.
That's so loud.
Look, if she starts it up like that, she won't know.
That's well quiet.
That sounds That sounds sick.
Oh. That sounds so good.
She'll be buzzing with that. Good news, Ferrari's in the bin. And the next morning, the wheels come back from Wheelmania with fresh tyres on. Look at them. Fresh football. So we can put them on the car in hopes to drive it for the first time. Now it's time for Hannah to see it. There it is!
Yay! Looks great!
Okay, start it up. Go. Quiet! That's standard. That's standard. Press that. There you go. Quiet. That's alright, isn't it?
Is that noise just the engine?
Yeah, that's fine. Give it a rev. It's got a soft limiter. And then that's That's alright, isn't it? Ready to drive it? The Urus is driving out for the first time since the accident. It might not look like a Urus yet, but at least it's driving. Yeah! We're out!
Oh my god! That sounds nuts!
Oh, it's well stiff. I think it's like on its bum. I don't think there's any air in the suspension. We're just on the bump stops. I think the front suspension's not working.
This feels like PS3.
It's not right.
Oh,
You've got no air in
we've got no air in the suspension. There's definitely something wrong with the suspension. Look how high the front is. I think it's to do with that sensor there, which isn't connected. But we drove it for the first time. It's driving. Oh.
It's got many issues.
It's got a few more issues we need to fix, but at least it's driving. Okay, so we've got everything running and driving now. Suspension's on, wheels on, and the car actually runs. So we're gonna start from the inside out. We've got an airbag to replace here and 2 airbags each side. So let's start with these curtain bags and we'll make moves. Let's get this interior done. To get to the curtain airbags, I've got to first remove this A-pillar trim. And once I've got that off, I can then access the bolt which holds part of the curtain airbag to the chassis of the car. Then it's onto these horrible clips. Best technique I've found is 2 little screwdrivers, push them into the clip and squeeze them together. Yeah! Whilst I did that side, my dad did the other. To access the rest of the clips, it looks like we're going to have to remove the roof lining. That is down. Once I'd lowered the roof lining down, I can now get to all of these clips which hold the curtain airbag to the car, using the same technique with the screwdrivers to remove them. With the clips removed, I can then unclip the electrical connector which goes to the explosive part of the curtain airbag and then unbolt it from the actual car. Here's what the old one looks like, and here's what the new one looks like. Time to install the new one. It slides back into place, bolts up to the chassis of the car, the electrical connector clips back in, and then the clips just literally push back in the same places where we removed them from. Then it's back up again with the roof lining, and most of it is held in with clips. And that leaves us with one last airbag to replace. Roof lining, 2 curtain airbags in. We've left off these pillar trims because the windscreen is going to have to come out anyway, and the mirror here because the windscreen is going to have to come out anyway. Next up, this airbag, which if it's anything like an Audi, there should be 2 little things that we push in. So first step, disconnect the battery. Disconnected. I'm going to take a wild guess, so you just push them in there. Yes! One airbag out. Let's get the new one. Here is the new one from Euro Spares. Shout out to Euro Spares again. All genuine Lamborghini stuff, of course. And the good thing about this, it comes with the electrical connections and everything on the back, because sometimes when the airbag explodes, it makes that much heat that it melts the connections in here, so you have to replace them. But good thing is we got them. Let's connect that up. Like that. Right, once this is in. We're in. There we are. 3, 2, 1. And that's all the airbags complete. But before we move on to the exterior of the car, I wanted to scan the fault codes, just to make sure we've installed them right. And also, I can see the rear seat belts have completely locked out. And although the front seat belts aren't locked out, they still could be flagging a fault code, which could bring the airbag light on the dashboard. Driver's seat belt tensioner. Oh, broken. Passenger side rear, broken. Front passenger side, broken. I think it's exactly the same as a Rolls Royce, but this time worse. The good news is though, this isn't broken and these 2 ain't broken. So even though the front seat belts haven't locked out, they're still triggered a fault code, and the igniter must have gone off to lock the seat belts out when it was involved in a crash. And the only way to fix these faults in the belts is to remove them and change the airbag igniter, or just completely change the seat belts. first seatbelt to come out is the driver's side front, which reminded me I need to clean this interior. Luckily I have my dad for that. This is the bolt we're trying to get to. Seat was over here to get to it. Now I can remove the carpet out of the way to access that bolt just there. As we've found, anything which has been built by Audi makes it difficult for people like us to take apart. See, look, so this is the retractor. So when that blows up, it pulls the seatbelt in. So that needs to be replaced. Along with the seatbelt tensioner, which is actually inside the seatbelt mechanism. So now I've got the front seatbelt out, we're now moving on to the rear seatbelts. And in true Audi fashion, we had to pretty much strip apart the whole back of the interior apart, just to access the seatbelt. All that to get that out, oh my God. But finally, they were all out. But instead of replacing them, we had other ideas.
How much is it in that box?
Well, second-hand seatbelts are £275 each.
So there's one, two.
It's like 1,200 quid. We're going to be sending these away to get repaired. So my dad's gave the seatbelts to Danny, they'll be shipped away, and hopefully we'll be seeing them back later. All the seatbelts are out, interior is pretty much cleaned out. Whilst we wait for the seatbelts to come back, we can move over onto the front end and start trying to put this thing together. Let's go. New wings. Now these are second-hand, and they were grey, but they are not quite the colour of the car, so I don't think we're going to get away with that. But what we said is if we can fit these to the car, take it to the body shop, paint this and then blend into the door, I think that is going to be our best option. So we'll see how we get on. Let's get these on and then we'll fit the rest. As well as the wings being damaged, the wing brackets are also damaged, so I've got a replacement for them as well. I'm going to bolt them to the chassis of the car first, and once they're on, I can then start fitting the wing to it. This is where we find out whether all the chassis work that we've done to the car is actually any good, because none of this would line up if it wasn't. The wing's got bolts on the top, inside the wheel arch, and once I tighten them in, on the passenger side it actually has a washer bottle which sits inside the wing as well. So I've got to put that into place, tighten that up with one bolt, and there's one final bolt which is sort of inside the door. And that's the passenger side wing fitted, and also the driver's side. But you can clearly see the colour match here, it's pretty off. Next step, let's put the bonnet on. To put the bonnet on, we've got to replace these hinges because these are all bent. Let's do it. As we've learned throughout the years, if you're replacing a bonnet that's been damaged, you should probably replace the hinges as well. Else it's always a nightmare to line the bonnet up afterwards.
It's a bit bent. That's the new one. And that's the old one. Are you happy now?
The driver's side hinge was a lot more damaged than the passenger side, but again, it's best to replace both. They then slide into place, and there's two bolts holding them in. But the thing is with the hinges, there's a loads of adjustment on them. But for now, we're just kind of putting them in the middle position, and then we'll adjust them once we put the bonnet in place. Here's the bonnet. The bonnet again is a second-hand one, which was from Urus spares, which is where most of the parts have come from for this car. So if you do need any Lamborghini new or used parts, make sure you go and check Urus spares out. Bonnet is on. It still needs jigging and moving around a bit. Things are loose still that we need to tighten up and get it absolutely perfect. But because of the wing is completely different colour to the door, and the bonnet is actually okay, we need to match the wing to the bonnet and the wing to the door, which requires us to kind of spray in. So we're going to go to the body shop, but before we do that, we do need to replace this windscreen. We decided to kill two birds with one stone and get the Urus on a trailer to the body shop, and once it was there, Screensaver could change the windscreen there. They used this kind of cheese wire to remove the original windscreen, and then once they got that out, they could start prepping the area and applying the adhesive to fit the new screen. Now we couldn't find any aftermarket screens anywhere, so we had to buy a genuine Lamborghini one, which wasn't cheap, but sometimes you're left with no choice. But now that that's fitted, the guys at the body shop were prepping the panels ready for paint. They're going over both front wings and doors with some light grit sandpaper just to roughen it up before it goes into the paint booth. Once it's in the paint booth, they mask the wing and the doors up. That way we don't get any overspray on any of the panels that we don't want painted. We'll give the panels a final wipe down and clean, and then Chris is going to start applying the paint. Grey is a really difficult colour to colour match, and the best way to do this is to spray into the next panel. And once a few layers of grey are applied, it then goes over both panels with a clear coat. And now that's looking a lot better. So we can get it back to my workshop and continue the build. Seat belts.
Oh no.
No explosives.
These are all our original seat belts, but now they've been reset by the airbag team and they've got new explosive in. I've just dropped them on the floor, but they seem okay. These have got new explosive in. You see that is further out now rather than being pulled in to tighten the seat belt. And not only that, also, oh my.
He's like, what is he doing?
We upgraded them to orange, which was an option. We upgraded them to orange, which is going to match all the orange inside. That's going to look proper mega, that is, isn't it? Well better than black. Just got to install these back in now. And whilst I'm doing that, my dad's going to build up the door cars and we can finally get this interior done and dusted and get onto the rest of the car. Let's film. Back in with the puzzle of an interior. First in is the rear seat belts, which sit behind so many interior trims. Once they're in, we can put all the trims back. Now, onto the front seat belt. I've got to remember to connect up all the electrical connectors to the seat belt, else it will throw more fault codes at me. Then slide the seat belt in place, along with the tensioner. Then the seat belt goes up the pillar, bolts in at the top, and goes through this piece of trim, which needs a bit of a clean. Now that those belts are in, I can start building back up the rear of the car. The rear seats are so bulky and heavy. I have no idea why, but I do know that they're heated and I think cooled as well, which would explain some of the weight. But that is the rear bench in. Now for the front seats. Again, a bunch of electrical connectors for the seat, which plug in underneath it, then a cap goes over the top, and we can bolt it all down. And finally, the interior is complete. Okay, interior is in. Now we need to cross everything we've got. There's no fault codes for the airbags anymore because that was a lot of work. Please, 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 no. Please, none. I think we've got none. We have got two, which is data bus missing message and data bus error value received, which I don't know what they're for, but we've got a lot less than we did have. Yeah, we've got no more seatbelt, airbag, anything like that faults, which is good. We've just got data bus missing message and then data bus error value received, which I assume they're linked. I don't know what that means, but as long as our airbag light disappears off the dash, which I think it might have. So where's the airbag light? Airbag light there, is that yellow one? It's off. And it stayed off. I think we fixed something. I think we've actually fixed something. Yes! We've actually fixed something. Now, if you remember last time when we drove the car, the suspension was really bumpy. It's so bouncy. It was like the front suspension wasn't working at all. And if you notice, the front end is really low and the back suspension is sitting super high. But now I think I have the solution to this. This car, like the Rolls-Royce, is on air suspension, and the air suspension work on those sensors on each corner of the suspension. And something tells me the front sensors are damaged or we've just not plugged them in. This sensor here is supposed to have a drop link from this plastic piece onto this rear arm. And without that drop link, that sensor isn't going to know how high or low the Urus is sitting. And if the sensor doesn't know, then the car's computer doesn't know. And that would explain why there's no air in the front left suspension. As for the right hand side, well, it looks like the sensor is completely broken. So I'm removing the sensor with the bracket as well and replacing it with one that I got on eBay for around £14. I think they're used on loads of different Audis. And this is an aftermarket one, so I hope it's going to work. Oh, it's pumping, it's pumping.
Yeah, it's coming up.
Can you hear it?
It's coming up.
Is it?
Yeah.
This works.
Level now.
And that seems like another successful job. Next step, the bane of our lives. We don't have another hydraulic strut yet, so that's our Lamborghini prop. Headlights. We could not find them anywhere with the same part number from this car, and we know now, we've learnt a lesson, only buy the same part number headlights on new cars. We had to buy brand new from Lamborghini, £4,800 each, these. So you better hope they work, and you better hope they light up the whole world in front of this car, because that is just astronomical prices. The amount of headlights that we've installed on cars throughout the years, and even though it is the correct headlight for the car, it still hasn't worked. But I'm hoping now we've learnt a lesson. That looks really good. Oh, look at that. Let's test it. Moment of truth.
This has to work for £4.5 grand, surely.
Is it on?
Yes!
Yes!
It's on!
Never doubted it. Never doubted it. Look at that. Sometimes it's just worth paying the extra money to have that guarantee that is actually going to work. Even though I still had my doubts. Now, in for the driver's side headlight. And the car's actually looking pretty good now. Both headlights working as they should. That went surprisingly well. Even Venturi. Now, we wasn't going to go crazy with this. We weren't going to modify this car crazy because Hannah likes stock cars, but look, we're in control right now. We're in control. And the reason we got this is actually a silly reason, to be fair. Check this out. So, this is the airbox on a Urus. That is the air filter there. Sits on top of the engine like that. And then you have some pipes connecting. We'll take these off. 2 hoses which connect that to that. That doesn't just go directly to that. We couldn't buy those hoses direct from Lamborghini for some reason. We had to buy this brand new all over again, which is over £500, which just seems stupid just to get those hoses. And then to get those hoses custom made would cost a lot because they're like oval hoses, not circle ones, so they need special tooling. So instead I thought, well, this is a chance to upgrade. And I thought, I did have a look at the Venturi kit, induction kit, and it looked like it come with those hoses, and if it doesn't, then we've just completely Uno reversed ourselves. So let's hope these hoses are inside this induction kit.
Yeah.
Yes! Which they were. We've got the hoses, that's all we needed. And alongside the hoses, there was even more. Look at that.
Oh.
That is carbon fibre and some. Do you reckon she'll know that that's not standard? I've fitted these Venturi induction kits to most of my cars, and you can guarantee, 1, they look good, and 2, it adds that extra power. Right now I'm taking off the standard pipes which connect to the turbo, because on the Venturi kit, you can see they're a much wider bore. Whoa! This is going to increase the airflow into those turbos, and of course the more air we can get into them, the more power we can get out of the engine. These pipes just bolt up to the turbos like direct replacement of the OEM ones, and all the hoses connect to them as usual. Both right side turbo and left side turbo is the same. Now we can put on the hoses that we originally needed. Then I've got to go back to the original engine cover with the air filter in it, remove the stock air filter from the engine cover, and then fit the Venturi carbon intake system to it. And once I've got that bolted down each side, it's time for the air filters. These huge cone air filters, which I'm sure are going to sound amazing when this car's under load. Before we fit it all, we've got to reinstall this strut bar, tighten that down. Then we can put the engine cover along with the Venturi air filters back into the original position that is meant to fit, then secure the silicone hoses to it all. And we're almost there. I'm now installing the intake pipes, which guide the air from the outside into the airbox, and finally the carbon engine cover, which clips into place, and that's job done. That looks sick. Then the bonnet will close. The engine cover. Oh yeah,
Oh, yeah.
it will. This is a brand new second-hand bumper, but unfortunately we are missing a few things. We thought we could have covered ourselves by getting a used bumper, but you can see on this bumper there's a lot of things. Parking sensors, radar sensor. This is to follow the car in front for adaptive cruise control. There should be a cap over this, covering over these ugly screws and everything like that. So I have ordered that. That can go in afterwards. Then there is also a camera at the front there. But not only that, there's these modules here, which these plugs should plug into, I believe. But I believe these things are for lane change assist. And there's one on the left side and there's one on the right side. And when a car pulls by you on the motorway and it's in your blind spot, this will tell you that there is a car there, don't pull out, and it'll flash a light on the dashboard. But I don't have these, so this bumper will have to come off eventually, but we're gonna have to put it on now because the next thing requires the bumper to be on, which will all make sense. But let's plug these on now, see what it looks like, see how it lines up, and we'll go from there. This is gonna make this look like a full car now. I actually think we might be able to put in those lane change sensors without taking the bumper off, but that wasn't our problem at the minute. Oh, no. The alignment was. Check back with you after adjustments. About a couple of hours later, surprisingly, I am happy with that. Look at the lines. Someone's gonna say, oh, it's not right, but I am happy with that. I can't see Hannah picking up on it as well. I think she's gonna be buzzing with this. Who wouldn't be buzzing with that? But how good is that? The Urus actually looks like a Urus now. And it's come a long way from when we picked it up. But we're far from finished there. It's about to get a little bit shouty, and Hannah doesn't know anything about this bit yet either. She doesn't know about the induction kit, and she doesn't know about this kit, which is about to go on, which has never been done before. Here we go. This is a full wide body CT carbon body kit for the Urus, and it has never been fitted to a Urus ever before. We're about to fit it to Hannah's. Hopefully she likes it. Hopefully it fits. Let's start with the hardest part first, we think. The back. Okay, this is about to get pretty crazy. But it wouldn't be a Urus I've rebuilt if it looked the same as every other Urus on the road. First off is a rear diffuser. And then the lower part of the bumper. 3, 2, 1. Yes! And now, on goes the carbon diffuser. As I mentioned, this kit has never been fitted to a Urus before, so we're the guinea pigs for it. But so far, everything's lining up. And it's using all the original bolt holes and screws that the OEM diffuser used. And it actually looks pretty good. This new kit has 2 spoilers. One replaces this spoiler, one we'll get onto. But this is gonna go in replacement of this. So we've got to get this off first. Let's do it. First thing we need to do is remove the old spoiler. I dread to think how much that spoiler costs. But it's okay because we won't be using it. Now, it's on with the CT carbon spoiler, with a bit of Mansory glue to hold it down. Well, we've just added 80 kilos of downforce. But we need more downforce. Yep, more downforce. There's a second wing. Again, we're using our signature Mansory glue. If it's good enough for them, it's good enough for us. We're applying the Tiger Seal to all the mating points on the spoiler, and then this just sits on top of the old spoiler. And in my opinion, it actually suits the car. This is where it gets interesting. The back is done, it looks really good, but this is a wide body kit, which means it makes the body wider. 30 millimeters wider to be precise. And this is gonna go like here, like that. And that is pretty wide. And then this is gonna go like that, on like that, and then so on, all the way down the car. It is gonna be a wide Urus. Let's get this bit fitted and we'll see how we go. But this bit is vital now, because if we stick this on wrong, then we have a big problem. The Urus already uses some kind of arch extensions, and this kit simply just sticks over them. So in theory, it should be quite easy to fit. We're adding our signature Mansouri glue to hold it on, which should be good enough. And once that's applied, we just need to make sure that I put this in the correct position. Then, onto the next piece.
Slam it. Come here.
Ooh. I'm just gonna hold it down with a bit of masking tape for now whilst the glue sets. Then I'm gonna apply the glue to the next piece of the kit and stick that down in the position where I think it should go. But so far, this kit is actually pretty easy to fit. Then, moving down to the door. I've gotta make sure this is perfect, else the door won't open and close. Door opens, door closes. Fat. That is well fat, innit?
That looks mint.
Oh, she's been squatting. She's been squatting.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Now, moving on to the side skirts. It wouldn't be a wide body car if all of it wasn't wider. Boom! Side skirt. These again just glue on to the body panel. It's a simple thing, but it can completely change the look of the car. Now we've got to put this on. Although this isn't painted, it doesn't matter because we're sticking the wide body kit over the top of this. Yo, so boom! Now I've got the right side of the body kit on and I know how it fits. I can completely blast out the fitting of the left side of the body kit. And it was really easy. Let's spin it round and do the front. And now we're on to the last piece of the kit, the front splitter. What a transformation that is. Look at this. I'm actually jealous of Hannah right now because I almost want her not to like the car because I really like this car and it's definitely like a bit of me now. 1 of 1 Urus now. This kit's never been fitted to a Urus at all. There's a discount code for CT Carbon on the screen if you need to get any carbon. But this car right now is almost there and the last bits always take the longest. They always do. But sometimes you have to slow down to look at how far this car's come. It's turning out to be an amazing looking car. And then to be able to give this car to Hannah at the end of this build, who has been with me throughout this whole journey from the very start and supported me through it all, is the very least I could do. These are the last faults that we've got. I've just scanned it. All these remaining fault codes are now just related to those sensors that we're missing off the front bumper and the camera and the radar sensor that need to be coded to the car. Other than that, I think we're just about ready. The good news is that it made it here. The bad news is that the wheels are absolutely killing the vibe. Look at that, you can barely see them.
Can't see the wheels.
No, so before we show this to Hannah, we need to sort these wheels out. And we're back at Wheel Mania again. You guys already know that I come here for all my wheels and tyres, but I'm hoping this time they can solve the wheel fitment on the Urus. Hannah's already told us that she likes the stock wheels, so we didn't want to stray too far from them, and I'm sure Wheel Mania are going to come through with these ones.
So Mr. Mansouri asked if you could come, so here he is.
I love Wheel Mania wheels.
Yeah, I'm sure that's a true fact. But here are the wheels. Oh yeah. And this is what she's gonna like. The HS. That's the thing. We wanted to keep them stock looking because we knew she liked the stock wheels, so we didn't want to disappoint her in not having stock wheels. But now we've got more aggressive offset.
We've had like subtle detailing, so there's detail on such this that's not on the original wheel.
Oh, nice.
We've hidden the original bolts. I gave it like a
oh
centre
yeah,
lock cord.
that's sick. Yeah, I like that.
It's little details like that. I think it makes
Oh
it
yeah,
more
that's
aggressive
wicked.
looking.
The centre cap literally covers over the bolts. That's well good. Right, let's see how these fit, and hopefully now it's not going to look like that when it's like underneath those big arches. I think she's going to love them. They still keep that kind of stock look, but we're hoping now the fitment's going to be a lot better. With the added little touches as well, of course. And that is it. The wheels are fitted. It looks really good. Absolutely sick. But again, yeah, thanks to Wheel Mania for topping off the build, topping off the look. It's always the wheels that matter, and these guys always come through. But there is one last thing we need to do with this car. We've got the check engine light on the dashboard, so this car's in like a soft limp mode, so we don't get full power, and that's because it's got the new exhaust system on. So to combine the exhaust system with the car, we need to tune it so that the car knows it has a performance exhaust on. And we've come to the perfect place to do so, Mallory Performance. Let's see what this car can make. So this is the moment now where we find out whether all the work that we've done to the engine, to the front end, to the radiators is all okay, because the car's about to be pushed to the limit. High speeds, high revs, high temperatures. I hope this all goes well. And I'm actually quite scared for Hannah. She's gonna have a really, really fast car, and she's in that room there. She hasn't seen the car yet, but she's about to hear it. First, for the stock run. But we don't think it's even gonna make the stock power because of that limp mode issue. First step, stock run. We don't know where it's gonna go. It's meant to be 640, but we're in limp mode. Here we go, stock run. It's a loud boy. One hour. 157 miles an hour. In 5th gear. Okay, stock figures. What we're going to get, we don't know whether we're in a soft limp or not. This is Hannah's daily car. And it sounds like that.
From a Land Rover.
Yeah.
3 litre Land Rover.
Yeah, literally a 3 litre diesel Land Rover to a 4 litre twin turbo V8.
God.
And the results are in at 534 horsepower. Around 100 horsepower off what it actually should be. So we're definitely in a limp mode. Right, Phil's tuned it. We're hoping now. Well, it's started.
Let's see what we can get.
First thing, we've just deleted the exhaust problems.
Yeah, the problems in the exhaust.
The problem is it now the car knows that it's got a better exhaust and no problem. So we're hoping now we get at least stock figures. Time for the second run. This time with a bass tune on the car. Very, very loud and scary. 675 horsepower this time. We're definitely going in the right direction. 675? 675 horsepower on the first run. Phil's got some more fine tuning to do. This is it now. How much power can we push out of this Urus? Results are in.
Oh, there we go.
What's it say? I can't read it. I ain't got my glasses.
707.
707 horsepower. 1,019 Newton meters of torque.
I just took a bit out of the up and give it a bit up top to make it.
Makes sense.
Make 700 brake.
Well done, Phil. So there it is. 707 horsepower. And over 1,000 Newton meters of torque. And on that note, I think it's about time Hannah saw the car. It's finally done-ish. From an Audi TT to now a Lamborghini Urus. One of one.
I don't think I can get any better than this.
It's a one of one as well.
This is like a true test of how well you know me.
You ready to see it?
Yeah.
Here we go. think she likes it.
Oh yeah. Oh okay. Can I get in it?
Yeah, do you want to see your wheels?
I like the wheels. I've never had anything with my initials on before. My initials look rubbish compared to yours.
I think it looks quite good. Happy with it?
I'm very happy. Late now.
She then went out on the first drive to test out her new 700 horsepower daily. Oh my god! That nearly took off!
Mike, did you see that?
No, backward!
Oh my god!
It's alright, isn't it?
I really like it.
Well, I'm glad Hannah likes it, but thanks so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, hit the subscribe button, hit that thumbs up button, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace out.
Any wine gums? No wine gums.
No, there's one here, though.
You can't eat that, surely.
Stop, look.
Are you gonna eat it? Oh, I can't believe you ate that.
Like a drug